Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jessica Brodie, and this is Shining the Light. So today I want to talk a little bit about control. So I am the mom of 4 kids. I have 2 biological kids and 2 stepkids. And right now they are 11, 12, 13, and 14. So we have a couple teenagers, a couple almost teenagers. And right now they're going through this whole independence thing, which is a little trying, I'm just gonna say, but it's also really healthy. You know, I remember when I was that age and all I really wanted to do was just turn 18 and get my own apartment and live my own life and, dictate my own schedule and go to bed when I thought I needed to go to bed and eat the kind of things I thought that I needed to eat, And I guess we all go through that, this whole resisting against your parents thing, and that's really normal and healthy. But this week I want to talk a bit about control and what it looks like with our eternal parent, which is God. Now, it's totally healthy to have a parent-child human relationship where the child is struggling against the authority of the parent. That's part of life and it's part of growing up. So it's really normal for kids to want to buck against their parents' authority. That's a natural part of life and kind of getting older. But when we do that with God, it's a whole different scenario because God is really that one relationship that we have that we're designed to always stay a child. We never reach the point where we should be independent from God. So unlike with our parents, we're never going to get to that point with God where we can stand on our own 2 feet and we can do life without him. It's actually just the opposite. We might go through that initial bucking against God's authority phase, but honestly, we're always supposed to come back to him. And that's something I struggled with personally for a really long time. I kind of thought that part of being an adult was standing on my own 2 feet and living in relationship with him, but maybe just doing it my way. That's actually not the case. The more I dig into the Bible, the more I realize I'm always supposed to come back to him. I'm always supposed to come back to praying to him and relying on him and leaning on him. In fact, the more I do, the stronger I become. It's sort of the total opposite of how it is with human parents and children. Thinking about this and really digging into what that looks like. So I found a couple of Bible verses. In Philippians 4, the Apostle Paul is talking about joy in the middle of struggle. And he was saying, he's learned the secret of being truly joyful, truly content in all things. He says, I can endure all these things through the power of the one who gives me strength. Other translations say, I can do all this through him, the Lord Jesus Christ. The point of that verse is not the beginning part, which is the I can do all things part. I mean, that's all good and well and super empowering. But really the verse is, I can do all through Jesus. So with the power of the Lord, depending on God, I can do all this. That's what it really says. So it's really about the help that we get from God. That's the empowerment. The empowerment is not, my own authority and my own command over my life, but it's really the dependence and the strength that I draw from God. So another verse is from Isaiah 55. I love the book of Isaiah. It is so beautiful. My plans aren't your plans, nor are your ways my ways, says the Lord. Just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my plans than your plans. So what's that saying here to me is that God's way is the best. So his way is always higher than our ways. He has this perspective that we don't have. I mean, keeping in mind that he created the whole world and he sees everything and he's beyond time. We're never going to get to the point where we can see it all the way that God sees it. I'm hopeful that when we die and we're with him in heaven, we'll have the ability to share that perspective. But right now in these human bodies in this earthly form, I don't think we're ever going to get to that place. But he has that. And so we might not have that, but we can look to his ways and align ourselves with him. And then we can achieve peace and happiness and bliss and all the good stuff in life by aligning our ways with his ways and our plans with his plans. So instead of independence from his plans, it's like we're kind of gluing ourselves onto his plans so that we become part of his, and then we achieve more, we do more, we live better, everything goes better because we're aligning with him. And then another one is from Ecclesiastes 3. Ecclesiastes can be a bit of a depressing book in my opinion, but there's also these really good nuggets of things. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, God has made everything fitting in its time, but has also placed eternity in their hearts without enabling them to discover what God has done from beginning to end. So God has made everything in its own due time. You know, there's a time for everything. There's a place for everything. He has done all the orchestrations. And while he's put these little seeds of eternity in our hearts, he's done it in a way that we kind of have a glimpse, but we don't see the whole picture. So we're never going to see his whole master plan the way he's designed it. He's designed it. We're just part of it. So heeding to his command and his authority is almost a logical jump. You know, it's not a sign of weakness. I think sometimes in life, at least I know I do, I get the notion that, you know, I'm weak if I'm bowing to someone else's command and leadership. And I realize that's prideful. That's something I struggle with. But I think we all do that in some way. You know, somehow we think, yes, we know God is Lord and we know that God is supreme, but we still think we have whatever we need to figure out figured out. And really we don't. The best analogy I can think of is from the book of John, the Gospel of John. One of the neatest and almost most frustrating things about Jesus' ministry is he used all of these parables, which if you understand what he's talking about, it's great. If you don't, it's just whew. So, but this one I think is clear. It's from the Gospel of John 15, 4-6. And it's about Jesus being the true vine. So he says, remain in me, and I will remain in you. A branch can't produce fruit by itself, but it must remain in the vine. Likewise, you can't produce fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me, and I in you, then you will produce much fruit. Without me, you can't do anything. If you don't remain in me, you will be like a branch that is thrown out and dries up. So for me, I am a city girl through and through. I mean, city and suburbs. And I've always been fascinated with things like Little House on the Prairie and what it must have been like to farm the land. But truth be told, I don't really have a green thumb. I'm luckily able to keep my houseplants alive for the most part, but I can't grow flowers. I've tried to grow vegetables and it's just been a disaster. It's just not something I'm skilled at. But I do understand, just from being outside and looking at trees, you know, you can tell if a tree's really rooted in the soil, it's healthy. You know, it's healthy and it grows and it gets enough sunlight and it gets enough water and it gets, you know, gets the nutrients that it needs to grow big and strong. And then it has branches. And as it is healthy, these branches grow and then they sprout leaves and sometimes fruit. And so the fruit can't grow on a branch that's cut off from the tree. You know, the fruit can only grow when it's part of this whole substance. But if it's cut off, it can't, you know, because it doesn't have access to life. So that's kind of how we are. So here are a couple of my houseplants. So you can see this one has pretty healthy soil. You know, it's growing This one here, I think it's an aloe plant. I'm not really good at all this, but you can see it's like has these little baby sprouty things coming out. You know, it means that it's doing okay, it's healthy. You know, now take a look at my basil plant. All right, so clearly it's not doing really well. I don't know if I've overwatered it or underwatered it, or if it hasn't gotten enough sun or not, but whatever soil it's in, it's not connected enough. So it's withering, you know, it's like what Jesus said, if you don't remain in me, you will be like a branch that is thrown out and dries up. This reminds me of what it's like when I'm not getting the nutrients I need from God. You know, I'm not really living in him, so I'm withering up. But when I'm in connection with him, and when I know that he's the boss and he's in control and he has authority, and I'm living well in him, then I'm thriving. Otherwise, I'm like this really sad basil plant. Something Jesus says also in that chapter jumps out to me. In 15:9, he says, "As the Father loved me, I too have loved you. Remain in my love." When we remain in his love, we do well. We blossom. We thrive, and he wants us to. He's giving us these secrets and all these how-to steps, and you know, they're right there for us. And if we just let go of our pride and all the mistaken identity stuff that we have going on in our lives, and we realize he's in control, he has the authority, and make it about him, we do better. So one day, our 11, 12, 13, and 14-year-old kids, I hope, are going to be grown men and women of their own, and they're going to have families, and then they're going to be going through this too. You know, I know I put my poor mom through a really trying time when I was a teenager with all my independence seeking. I know that she put her own mom through that too. And so just as I'm going through that with my kids, they're going to be going through that with their kids. I think God goes through that with us too. The trouble is, he knows that what's best for us is to remain in him, and not to get away from his authority, and not to grow up and get too big for our britches, you know, but really to live in him and to grow in him. So I might buck against the control of anybody else on earth. The only one I can't buck against, really that I shouldn't buck against, is God. All right, that's all for this week. Thank you so much for watching and for subscribing to this channel. And I hope you connect with me online on my website, which is jessicabrodie.com. I hope you connect with me on social media too. Comment below. If there's something that you're struggling with, put that in the comments too, and we can pray together. If there's any Bible verse that really points you in the right direction, I'd love to see that too. Anyway, until next time, God bless you, and keep on shining the light.